Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kenny Conversation, brought to you by JEGS, the leader in high-performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jegs.com for anything you need to fix your everyday vehicle up or even that hot rod that you have. You're looking at him, one of the greatest chassis builders of all time, and I don't use the word great lightly, the great Bob Harris. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Kenny. Everything's been good. Can't complain whatsoever. It's a beautiful day today. T-shirt weather. Wasn't raining finally. So life's good.
You know, I want to brag on you for a little bit, and I want the audience to know this. You know, I'm 62 in August, and you're getting up there too. You are up to date with technology, and I just think that's awesome. I mean, you logged right on and you got right on Kenny Conversation. Usually we got to tell everybody what to do, but man, you are really up with technology. And we're going to talk about that. But how'd you learn all the technology? Did you just stay up?
Just trying to keep up with it. Of course, Chad Weirs and I do a show every other week. It's called Speed Tips with Bob and Chad. So I've learned quite a bit with that, and I just like keeping up with stuff.
Yeah, you're really good at it, and that's why you're successful. All right, let's talk about this first, and then I want to talk about you. Um, the Harris Clash, this legendary race that you put on, is coming up June 24th at Boone, Iowa. I'm just going to let you go. I don't want to tell everybody everything, but tell me about this legendary Harris Clash.
Well, it's a race that, we started back in 1992. It was just a race basically to reward the fans or the racers that had won races at specific racetracks. Well, then as we evolved, we started taking it to different places, and then we ended up going to Knoxville, and we raced at Knoxville quite a bit. And that was kind of a neat deal because it was an open deal. Nobody raced Knoxville, so there wasn't a local favorite or anything like that. So that worked out really well, and we had a lot of fun there. And it's just evolved since then. We've been doing it for 34 years. Um, we've been at Deer Creek the last few years. That racetrack is an awesome facility. I mean, it's just a great deal. But we got to the point where we kind of needed to move it back to Iowa, get it more in the heartbeat of IMCA world. And Boone Speedway, I mean, there's I don't know, there's a lot of racers and a lot of fans within 100 miles of Boone Speedway.
Boy, it really is. Boone is so legendary. All those racetracks you just said, but Boone is the one. I mean, to me, that's a modified IMCA capital of the world. It seems like. I want to brag on you, and I want you to talk about this. The Harris Clash is 34 years old, and it is the oldest one-day event in racing. That's incredible. How have you been able to keep this event going so long, so strong?
It's something that I've had in my heart. It's something that, we put on for the racers. It's a situation where we try to put together and get enough sponsors and enough support that these guys can come run a one-day show and get paid a pretty good chunk of money. And the racers have supported this deal all along. I mean, it's been wonderful. And once again, like I said, we get them in there, we get them out of there. A lot of these big paying shows are 2-day deal. Well, that's an expense to the racer, and I just these guys got enough expenses. We got to figure out ways to cut some of their expenses. And so keeping it a one-day show, I think, has been part of the success.
It sure is nice to hear somebody that knows about the sport, understand it, and then implement it. We hear a lot of promoters talk about the expenses, but to actually implement it like you are, I want to thank you for keeping it at a one-day event, making it a legendary race. So I told my dear friend and yours, Kenny Schrader, I said, Schrader, I'm going to have a Kenny conversation with Bob Harris. And to this day, Kenny Schrader is a NASCAR great. He's ran Daytona. He's ran the Darlington Southern 500. And one of his favorite races is that Harris Clash. Can you tell me some of your memories with Kenny Schrader racing in your Harris Clash?
Well, he ran a lot of the races at Knoxville, and the one, I mean, we had a good car for him. The car was pretty new, and it was just good. And so we went to Knoxville, and he qualified good. So I think he started like third row, and didn't take him long to get in the lead, and he led that thing till the white flag lap. They put the white flag out. He went down into turn one and broke the Panhard bar and got him up in the marbles. And that was such a sad situation because he was going to win the Harris Clash.
Yeah.
So he was kind of bummed about that.
And he still is. He told me a little bit ago that he is bummed out about that. It is amazing that NASCAR drivers, they race at the highest form. And Kenny Schrader's won a truck race, an Xfinity race, a Cup race, and here the one that haunts him is that Harris Clash at that legendary Knoxville. So everybody, listen up. Remember, just a reminder here, it's coming up June 24th, the Harris Clash at Boone, Iowa. It's a one-day event, and tell me some of your highlights, some of your memories. Who's the winners? What finishes stick out to you besides the Kenny Schrader stuff?
Well, Kelly Shyrock won it twice. And both times when he won it, he was working for me, so that was pretty cool. Kyle Strickler won it back to back, and that was pretty neat. We've just had a lot of great winners, but nobody has ever won that race 3 times.
Wow.
In 34 years, nobody's won it 3 times. We've got some 2-time winners, but Tom Berry and Cam Reimers were 2-time winners last year at Deer Creek. So I mean, it's not over till it's over. I mean, it's just an awesome race. And this year we've added stock cars besides the sport mods. So that's going to be a pretty cool deal. We're going to change the format up a little bit. We're going to run the stock cars first. They'll be first in the order, and then the sport mods, and then the modifieds. And from what my experience have been by watching races at Boone, the stock cars, when the racetrack gets kind of wore in a little bit, they tend to be a little more bottom feeders. And so then the show's not, it's still a good show, but it's kind of a bumper car type deal. So I want to run them first so that they will have a top and a bottom and be able to put on a good races for the fans and good races for the competitors. The sport mods, they're pretty capable of running top and bottom no matter what the conditions are. And the modifieds, of course, they can run anywhere. I mean, the last weekend, it was an awesome show. I tell you what, they've really done a great job with the racetrack this year, and the racing's just been phenomenal.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Once again, June 24th, Boone, Iowa, the Harris Clash. And I will say this about Boone. They got the best track prep in the world. Man, they can get it done in a heartbeat. So you're never, ever at Boone going to run on a rubbered up track. And I think that goes a long way for such a big event. Okay, Bob, it's time for us to take a deep breath, and I want to celebrate you. Let's change subjects.
Okay.
You are world known for Harris race cars. Not years ago, but a little bit ago, you built frame and cages. You built race cars, and those things would win everywhere all the time. Tell me and your fans out there, what has happened to the Harris race cars and what you're up to now?
Well, we started building race cars I started business in 1980 when they quit racing.
Mm.
I raced for 3 years and kind of come to the conclusion every time I put a driver in my car, we did better. So it
Mm.
didn't take too much. It didn't take too long for me to figure out I was making more money paying the driver than I was doing it myself. And so then I started in business and we started doing sheet metal and stuff like that. Well, then we got into building race cars. And I think we built our first modified in 1986. And, we just, I just enjoy it. I enjoyed building them and I really enjoyed it. It was just one of those situations where time had went on and a guy offered me a situation that where I could go to work for him and he would own the company and it was a pretty good deal. So I chose to do that, and then that kind of worked out sort of okay, not exactly like it's just like everything when you're used to running the company and then somebody else is running the company, you know,
You're going to
it
butt
just
heads. You have different ideas.
and it's not their fault. I mean, a lot of it was my fault because I was used to doing things a certain way. And so then I kind of got out of it. Well, then we decided to get back into it. And actually, Joe Garrison, who's a good friend of mine, his product was very similar to mine, and his theories were very similar to mine. And so him and I got together, and we started selling Joe's cars, the GRT cars, and that was real successful. Nothing big. I mean, when I owned Harris Auto Racing, we were building 120 cars a year.
Wow.
And
Oh.
and now, we do probably somewhere between 15 and 20. And it's just a lot scaled back. I had at one time I had 22 employees, and now I have 7. And so and then we got into the shock business, and the shock business is really good. My son Bobby takes care of that pretty much. Him and Braden, they're the 2 shock guys, and the shock deal is nationwide. We've got customers all over on the shock thing, and that works really well.
One thing I learned, and I wanted to talk about it, is my CPA accountant, his name's Ashok. He's from India. And I would say to him, I'm like, it's time for me to downsize. And he would say, no, my friend, you're right sizing. So you're telling me that things are right now.
Yeah.
120 cars a year, that sounds really good, but I bet that's a lot of work, isn't it?
Oh man, I tell you, you know, and you were really kind of on the verge of whether you were really making decent money or not, because sometimes you got caught in that profitability deal because you're trying to pump out too much, but the demand was there, and so we just tried to keep up with the demand, and it got to me. I mean, it was just too much.
I admire you, and I admire anybody that can build race cars. But I look at the great Ed Howe, and his son Chaz is kind of, I would compare you to, because they are so big in asphalt parts.
Hmm.
Um, you know, they build some specialty cars, road course cars. But do you find making parts, building shocks, do you feel that's a little more rewarding because you can specialize a little more? I just see a similarity in both of you now.
Yeah, you definitely can. And then you open yourself up to a whole lot wider market, So, like with the shock business, I mean, we've got all kinds of chassis brands that run our shocks, and so it opens it up, and we're really good about keeping private information private. I mean, if somebody gets their stuff from us, we don't advertise it. We don't tell people, well, Joe's running this or whatever. We keep that's confidential, and that works really well. But we've got all kinds, and our base is IMCA stuff, but we've got some Lesotho stuff, we've got some UMP stuff, so it's pretty broad.
So if I'm going to get shocks from you, uh, Bob, bobharrisenterprise.com. And what does
Yep.
the shock look like? What is the name? How can I see one of your shocks? Like what kind of decals on it?
It's our BHE decal that's on it.
Your hat.
Um,
Okay, that's the logo.
yep,
Gotcha.
that's the logo, and we build AFCOs, we build Bilsteins, we build Penske's, and we build JRIs, and we do some Integra stuff, and we do a lot of repair, shock repair on other brands.
I must say that BHE logo is very famous, Bob. It's out there. It's out there. And, one thing I want to touch on. I'm a racer and I race every week. There is a lot to. Hey, I appreciate you guys building my shocks. Because it's hard on me. It's complicated. There's a lot of shims and oils and valves. But yet I like it that you brought up when a driver starts a relationship with your company, you don't share that shock valving with anybody else. Is that hard to do, or you just know that's the heart of your business, keeping that driver's information?
Well, and see, the thing of it is, and the way we do our business is like if you bought a set of shocks from me, I'll sell you a set of shocks which I think would be the best possible set of shocks for you in your UMP car. Okay. You get these shocks and you run them a couple weeks or whatever, 3 weeks, whatever the case is. And then you call and you say, Bob, I needed to get on the right front a little sooner. It just doesn't seem like it wants to get on the right front as soon as I would like it to. Okay, well, send me that shock back. We'll soften the valving on the compression side. And now all of a sudden, see, that's your shock. That's not a generic shock that anybody else has because we tune it to you and your needs.
I like that. That's good stuff. All right. There you go, everybody. BobHarrisEnterprise.com. Shocks is a big business for him right now. All in the family. You mentioned your boy and
Yep,
somebody else.
and my daughter runs the office.
I love this. This is great.
So yeah, it's kind of a family affair.
Switching subjects. You've created this heartfelt relationship with Chad Weirs.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring Chad up because when my big brother Rusty Wallace would race in Milwaukee, I remember seeing a USAC stock car sponsored by Weirs Chevrolet. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll be darned if it wasn't all these years later, somehow myself and Chad, we had each other's phone number. And Chad would start texting me pictures of lacrosse, of, vintage racing day. And I'm like, Chad, I know this sounds crazy, but your dad, you guys have a Chevrolet dealership at one time. And it's really cool to see Chad, is what I'm saying, the son.
Sure.
How did you and him, I guess a likely pair, but unlikely pair, how did you and Chad become such good friends?
Just over the years, we bought a lot of his products, and Chad originally was a relatively shy guy. Didn't talk a whole lot and stuff. So I convinced him into do it because I do in the wintertime, I do chassis schools.
Yes.
And so I convinced him into doing a chassis school with me. And he's like, oh man, I don't talk that much. I don't, I'm like, oh, trust me, I'll lead you in. You'll be just fine. And heck, he's been doing chassis schools with me for, I would say 12 years or so. I mean, I don't, I'm kind of getting to that point where at this age, I don't know exact dates on stuff. It's like, it's just been a while. And so we just got to be good friends, and I promote his product very well because I believe in it, and I believe in what he stands for and the American made stuff. And we just got to be good friends. And now like I said, we do that show every other Monday night on Facebook. That's Speed Tips by Bob and Chad. And we started that during the COVID season because, of course, you couldn't see nobody. You had no way of getting a hold of people. So we started that deal, and it's just been successful. And we just answer questions, give people technical support, Uh, we get some guests on there. In fact, we really need to get you on there and talk about what you're doing. And so, it's been pretty neat, and it's just been a lot of fun. And yeah, him and I are just good friends.
That is a pair made in heaven. One thing I do like about Chad is he compliments people. When you go through Chad's, folder, his magazine, if there's a part that is different, he'll say, Bob Harris inspired, Nick Hoffman inspired, David Stremme inspired. Have you and Chad, on your side, do you have a part or piece in his magazine that you inspired that you're proud of?
I wouldn't say that I have one specific piece, but we have a lot of pieces that I feel we contributed to updates.
Yeah.
And, or he'll send me a part, try this, tell me what you think. So we do a lot of experimenting for him. And I kind of like to run under the radar. I mean, I don't, you know, fame is not something that's a big deal to me. So if we can make something better for the racer, that's what it's all about. They're the guys that are paying our bill.
But this, what we're doing right now, this is a good thing in our sport. I think getting information out there. And let's change subject again, and let's end like this. We got 9 minutes left or so. We wanted to do a half hour conversation with you, Bob,
Sure.
and I appreciate your time. I want to talk about IMCA right now. Every IMCA racer, and what I know about IMCA and Brett Root, and I've run plenty of IMCA races. The IMCA modified that division is meant for a man that goes to work, but yet loves racing, wants to compete at a high level. How do you see IMCA today? How is it doing financially? Are the cars out of hand? What do you think of IMCA today compared to 40 years ago or more?
Well, I think they have done an exceptional job at keeping the relative cost down. And what I mean by relative, I mean, face the facts. I mean, it's just like a Big Mac at McDonald's costs a lot more than it used to. And so costs are going to go up. But I think they've done a real good job with it. Their tire rule, I'm not a huge fan of the particular tire that they run, but everybody runs on the same tire and we make it work. But the sport's growing. I mean, they're doing quite a few specials now, and some of the specials are starting to pay well. And it's like the Harris Clash modified deal. Whoever wins that's going to be $4,000, and it's $250 to start. So there quite a few racers that are doing that, and some of them are picking and choosing. Some of them are. IMCA started more like a weekly deal. And I think weekly is good to a point. Now, I like the idea that there's some specials out there that you can go, because, the weekly grind sometimes can get, you've got family, you've got softball games, you've got baseball games, you just got stuff to do. And so I think they have went in a great direction. I think they're growing. I think they're doing an awesome job. Brett's doing a good job with their tech support and stuff. I think they do an awesome job.
Yeah, and I do too. I wanted to give you the platform. I think IMCA is the best division in the world. And by the way, everybody, a little known fact: IMCA is the longest, oldest running association in America, far older than NASCAR. So I think they're doing a great job. Just a little bit more, the racer in me, Bob. This is the racer coming out in me.
Sure.
We all know that they kept the stock front clip because they did not want geometry to get out of hand. Financially, they wanted to keep, front geometry intact. So we've gone through all the front clips, and now you can buy front clips, and then you got to have them, welded together. Do you ever see, in your heart of all hearts, in your brain of all brains, do you ever see an affordable front clip being built out of normal tubing?
I don't see that happening. There's a certain amount of illusion that we have to put in perspective to these cars. If we made it out of a tube front clip, then what difference would it be between that and a late model car?
Good point.
So now, from a manufacturer standpoint, yeah, I'm all about a tube clip, but the illusion is we would lose the actual modified identity if we did that.
I've always wanted to talk about this with somebody that's seen it all, and you've seen it all. When I race at Volusia, for the Dirt Car Nationals, and I live in St. Louis, so UMP is my jam. And when my high-end engineer friends come from NASCAR and they want to see my car, I say, come to the back first. Because if I take them to the front of my modified, they're like, oh my God, it's a car front clip. I'm like, yeah, they keep it like this to, try to keep the cost down. And I've never heard anybody put it your way. I want to commend you. You've really changed my mind on this. Sometimes illusion, you're right. We don't have any business competing with super late models, do we?
No, I mean, that's their division. They get to do what they want to do. That's their rules. Don't mess with our modifieds. Because
Right.
How many cars do they have and how many modifieds do we have?
That, and let's end like this, because I tell everybody, they're like, tell me about them modifieds, like they're trying to talk bad about the modifieds. And I rebel because sometimes I'm a little defensive. And I said, well, let me tell you about modifieds. They're the largest car count of race car in America.
Yes.
So they're doing something right, ain't they, Bob?
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be, I know people have tried that idea of that tube clip, but it would just be a big mistake.
Okay, everybody. I'm sure we could celebrate Bob in a 3-part series. There's much more to that man. But right now, it's June 27th, the Harris Clash.
24th.
24th. Thank you so much. The Harris Clash on June 24th. The Harris Clash on June 24th. We say it 2 times. And it is the oldest one-day event. It's 34 years old. So make sure. So what do we do? Just go to harrisclash.com for tickets, Bob?
Actually, you need to go to Boone Speedway, which it's raceboone.com. And then it's also going to be on IMCA TV. For those who are way out of state and can't come, you can still log on to imca.tv and watch it live streaming on there. They do an awesome job. They put on a good show. A lot of times I'll stay home and watch the streaming if I just don't feel like going to the races some nights. And I only live 36 minutes from the racetrack.
36, that's my number. How old are you now, Bob? You're acting like you're old. You look good though.
I'm 71.
Oh man,
I'm a year older. I'm a year older than my buddy.
Oh my God, we're not going to date this show because we want to go over the next month. But yes, Kenny Schrader will be 70 years old when this airs, and that is a big thing. And all right, everybody, listen up. Want to thank you, Bob Harris, for coming on Kenny Conversation. And remember, you'll see this on the Kenny Wallace YouTube show. And we appreciate you, Bob. Anything else to say?
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on the show. I mean, people like Tony Stewart, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kenny Schrader. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the people that you have had.
Well, we're friends with all of them because we love racing. One thing we share in common, Bob, we've got an infinity love. Our love is deep for racing. And all right, everybody, that's it. Until the next Kenny Conversation, we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.